Good morning. How are you today? Good, thank you. Welcome to Introduction to Psychology. So today we are going to keep talking about social psychology since we live together with other people, even in this classroom, you and me, more than one person. So I think this social element of living together is really important. So we've been talking about persuasion. I realized Daniel can be really good salesman. We tried to sell those products, right? And you did a really great job. So there are several techniques, and foot in the door technique. Maybe we ask a small thing first, and then the person can agree. We can ask bigger thing. Imagine you need to go some trip, maybe Colorado trip for 1 week, and you have a dog. Maple, right? So maybe in the neighborhood, maybe you have some just like right next door, the neighborhood, you want to ask maybe feed Maple, while you're gone. But before, that's kind of your main purpose. But before that, you kind of ask a little thing, maybe could you watch my garage door just to make sure maybe Maple is not going outside? Can you do that? And if the neighbor agree with that, maybe you can kind of eventually say, could you feed my dog? I'm gonna gone for Colorado for 1 week. So, as a human being, once you kind of yes, with a small thing, we have a tendency to say yes on other, even though it's a little bigger thing. Do you kind of agree with that, or?
To a point, and definitely depends on what we're talking about. But yeah, it's definitely a technique for sure.
Yeah, even like maybe for the job too. Maybe you are maybe working as an intern. And maybe you have a really good impression, to the other people, and then you have more possibility to work there as a full-time. So part-time first, and then maybe do your best, and then maybe full-time later on too, right? So it's kind of all related to those concepts too. So door in the face, you told me you never heard about those door in the face technique, right? So door in the face is basically somebody will ask really huge thing. So no, everybody will say no for those. But later on, that person came again and can you do little thing? But actually the real purpose was the second one. So my example will be, so when you are in high school, were you a band kid or any sports did you play?
I did sports.
You did sports.
I was a good kid.
Okay, yeah. So let's just say maybe you are playing some trumpet and you are maybe in the band, right? And you are gonna do some like a national some competition next week. So you are doing some like fundraising. So door to door, and knock the door, and then knock on your door, Daniel. And then the person came to you, and you never seen that person, and maybe the boy came to you, and we are going to band competition next week, Washington D.C. Would you donate $100? How would be your reaction for those? No. Yeah, $100 is pretty big money, and did I know you? And it seems like that's too much, right? Mm-hmm. But the same boy will knock on the door tomorrow, again, and would you buy this flower? Because this one is only $10 and it will be good for any occasion. It will be really great help for my band trip. Would you like to buy this flower with the $10? And what would be your answer?
Sure, I'll give you $10.
Okay.
Keep the flower, but I'll give you $10.
Oh, okay. Even you become more generous, saying keep the flowers. Yeah, $10. I can do it. Yeah, for you and for your trip. Yeah, those are more like a door in the face technique. So at the beginning, maybe too much thing you kind of ask, and everybody will say no for those. And then maybe you kind of came there again, and they try to this is my intention. Can you donate $10? So maybe that person came to you, and then just like, can you give us $10? But you feel like, you could give that, but at the same time, it can be maybe too much. But if you kind of got asked like $100 and then reduce like a $10, probably it's easier for you to kind of say yes for the $10. So those are strategy. So when you sell any product, maybe you can use that strategy too, right? Yeah, and also door in the foot in the door technique was when you go to shopping, people say, just come on in. You don't need to buy. Just try on it, try on it. But there are psychology behind that. Once you touch. Just looking at maybe window shopping would be okay. But once you touch it and then once you wear it, you really want to buy their product. So those are more like a foot in the door technique to sell your maybe hat, any shoe, or even car. Yeah. Okay. So there are several techniques, but that's the main thing. It's not working, but it's okay. I can. Okay, so there are other techniques, but we already talked about those central root, persuasion, focusing on the major function of the car. I will try to remember the BMW CS. What was your dream car?
BMW M5 CS.
M5 CS, yes, yeah. So maybe if somebody wanna sell their car to you, the person will explain how good is that car, how function, the major like things for the car. Maybe the peripheral root persuasion will be very famous musician by this one, and then he kind of drive this car, so you should buy one. So those are more like extra. And foot in the door and door in the face and lower technique. So have you ever purchased a used car in your life by yourself? Okay, yep. Okay. So, I'm sure maybe you will get a good deal, but whenever you kind of go to some dealer shop, maybe the front on the window, 2,000. Yeah, for maybe looks good and to used car, 2,000. But once you go there, you realize kind of paying not 2,000, ending up maybe 2,500 because there are some tax and maybe some other kind of fees kind of added too, right? So those are more like a lower technique. Once you say, okay, I will purchase that car, $2,000 kind of in the window price, but actually that's not the price. Kind of getting more tax and other title, the fees, and ending up you pay much more, right? Yeah, those are more like a lower technique, but we may use this one for the persuading, somebody else to purchase certain things. Okay. So one of the social, psychologists try to do some experiment, social role. So when you are in the position of maybe general in that army, or maybe you are the professor in a very huge maybe university, and you are the CEO of a company. Because of the position, they may behave differently. Comparing to when they're just kind of hang out with their friends, right? So position make people. There's like a saying, position make that person and personality. Do you kind of agree with that? Sometimes those are like maybe general and maybe professor and doctor, medical doctor, and because of that, authority is there, right? And because when you are in that role, you kind of behave just like them. So we are gonna watch one video clip. This is really one of the notorious psychology experiment. It was happened Stanford University. I had a chance to visit Stanford University about maybe 5 to 6 years ago, and I just kind of because recognize those buildings, and they use those basement of the building as a prison. So imagine. Have you ever done like a pretend play when you are young? Basically, I'm the daddy and you are the mom, and this is like a puppy. And let's make a spaghetti, and they kind of pretend and try to eat.
House.
Yes, house playing. Yeah. So imagine, but it was really serious. Make that kind of regarding those downstairs as a prison, and they kind of set up the role of prisoners and guard and other secretary, and there's like they divide those roles. But the participant, they didn't choose. They were kind of chosen by those experimenter. And then when you are in that situation, what is really happening? So we are gonna watch the video clip and talk together.
On the first day, I said, this is not going to work. I mean, the guards felt awkward giving orders, and they'd say, okay, line up, repeat your numbers, and the prisoners start giggling.
Hey, I don't want anybody laughing. 3, 2, 1.
And then a very interesting thing happened. Dave Eshelman, who the prisoner's named John Wayne, like he's a Wild West cowboy, he begins to be more extreme.
I decided that I would become the worst, most intimidating, cruel prison guard that I could possibly be.
I've seen the future that you do work when you're told. Thanks. Say it again. Thank you, sir. Say bless you, correction officer.
I was sort of fascinated myself that people were believing the act, and I was trying to see how far I could take it before somebody would say, okay, that's enough, stop.
We did have to do things like push-ups. We would have to sing things. At the beginning, we protested some of the actions. We did things to irritate the guards.
If I gotta be in here, I'm not gonna put up with any of your shit.
So the guards' authority was challenged right off the bat. And the guards had to decide how they were going to handle that, and they had to decide it without our input. I mean, again, this was not a Milgram study in which we were standing over them telling them what to do. And they began to see the prisoners' behavior as a kind of an affront to their authority, and they began to push back.
We would ramp up the general harassment, just sort of crank it up a bit. Nobody was telling me I shouldn't be doing this. The professor is the authority here. You know, he's the prison warden. He's not stopping me.
This is unbelievable! They took our clothes.
Hands off the door. There was the first evening a kind of rebellion that took place.
The prisoners rebelled. They barricaded themselves in their cells and said, we refuse to come out. They took off their numbers. They didn't want to be de-individuated. They started cursing the guards to their face. And the key turning point was the guards began to think of them as dangerous prisoners.
I looked a lot different. I started my degree.
Sorry, maybe in between they have some advertisement. So I guess this is the one. We can talk a little bit about those. Philip Zimbadore was the professor at the Stanford University and tried to know, as a human being, when you are in that, those social situation, how would we behave? So it was really serious. I mean, I could not choose like a longer video clip because the longer one is like 20 minutes. So when you are not chosen, kind of assigned to be like a prisoner, like an inmate, they're gonna use police car and then try to pick you up in your house. So maybe neighborhood, maybe will notice like maybe Daniel got big trouble because the policeman will come to you and doing putting you into the car. So I guess it's real, like it sounds like a really like a real situation. So, but this is like an experiment. So as an inmate, you go to the Lodge prison, which is like downstairs of the Stanford, one of the building, and there like a guard is waiting for you. And they kind of assign those cell, and depending on the guard, those notorious guard, they will kind of ask you really ridiculous thing. You do not listen to me. Maybe you need to clean this toilet with a bare hand. And you're a prisoner, maybe you need to this cold, maybe dirty bread and push up maybe 100 times, and those kind of, things happen. So it was like happening 1970, and expecting those professor Zimbadore and other colleagues expecting maybe a couple of maybe weeks to do those experiment, but they need to kind of ending up 1 week. Because it was so serious, and all the inmates, like prisoners in the assigned, like prisoners, they said, we cannot do it anymore. So one of the other professors kind of watching those scene, and that person said, you need to stop this experiment. This is too much, like psychologically, maybe physically harm too for the people who are signed in as maybe prisoners. So this is really interesting experiment. So do you feel like if you are in that situation, maybe CEO of the company or maybe general of that army, you feel like you may behave differently? Or
yeah, authoritarian control is going to make you behave differently anyway.
Because of the position?
But yeah, well, I mean, you can't have sympathy for somebody, but you can have empathy for them. Like, you can't treat them differently because of it, but you can still feel for them, you know. But yeah, I feel like that type of deal is kind of equivalent to how they treat us in basic training. So I don't know why they took that so wrong and negatively, because that's how drill sergeants treated us. Whenever I was in basic training, they literally, you were property of the U.S. government, and they told you what to do, and you had to follow it. And if you didn't, then they would punish you.
Yeah, so even though the maybe situation has been changed, but still we are in a certain group, and we went there as a, you know, like a trainee, as a trainee, right? And then you should be, get adjust well in that, army society. So they're gonna treat you maybe like a little degrading at that moment, possibly, right?
Yeah, well, before they started banning stuff, I mean, the first thing you would do is you would pull up in a big long bus full of privates, and you showed up to basic training, and they called it the shark attack. As soon as you did, you'd have like CS gas grenades get thrown on the bus, and you'd hear a drill sergeant, "You have 10 seconds my bus," and y'all have to like rush out, and he's like yelling at y'all, and like they're throwing CS gas, everybody's choking, they're like, "Hold your heavy bag above your head," and like, they definitely break you and rebuild you. I mean, maybe not now, but
Yeah. I mean, I do believe, still maybe the training process can be kind of, maybe it can be severe, to the people who never experienced.
Maybe it's
before.
psychologists that's telling them, because they banned the shark attacks now. I was like one of the last groups that had shark attacks.
Oh no!
Yeah, they banned them because they say they're bad. They don't help. But
I see.
I don't agree with that. I think it's part of basic training.
It's a part of basic training, okay. Because you all went through, and now you can tell. Maybe that was a good, eventually part of the training.
You can't go into a war scenario where you might have to kill people to protect yourself and your friends and your family and even the country without breaking yourself and rebuilding yourself back up. And that's what they were doing. They were training you to be prepared for what you might have to endure.
Sure. Make you strong, right? Yeah. Okay. So conclusion is social role when you are in that position can influence both maybe good and bad behavior. Let's watch other video clip too. This one is also social influence. We are gonna watch one video clip. The situation is like this. This one is conformity. Solomon Asch, he did lots of experiment with those line experiment. So if you're kind of looking at the line, the left one is standard. They're kind of line. There's a ABC. Which line among ABC the lengthwise close to the standard line? If you're looking at that.
You said which one is closer to the standard line?
The lengthwise. So there's a A, B, C, and lengthwise.
C is the closest.
Yes. But we will see. If you're looking at in the middle, like a number 6, he is the real participant. But if you're looking at 5 and 7, they are confederate. So confederate means those are fake participants. So as a psychologist, put the other fake participant, but real you is right there. So this is like a social experiment. So we want to know and how you choose and how you behave in the social context. So we are going to watch video clip and talk about conformity.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 3. 3. 3. 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2. 2. 2. 2. 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Ash found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1. 1.
They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me.
1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1. 1. 1. 2. 1. 2. 2. 2.
I know they're wrong, but why should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2. 2. 2. 2.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Ash gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1. 1. 2. 1. 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with a group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Ash. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1. 1. 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Ash's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
Okay.
One of the most
So this is a really well-known study about conformity. So imagine you are in that one of those group with a confederate. How would be your reaction, Daniel?
I don't know. I'd probably just answer correct if it's for study.
Okay, good. Honestly, I mean, those are maybe totally new situation, and they try to measure my maybe memory skill or maybe some mathematics skill, and everybody kind of say a wrong answer. Maybe for example, everybody say A is the maybe closest length. I may say A. Maybe kind of more, I'm kind of growing up more like collectivistic culture, and group value is, sometimes it can be ahead than individual value. So I will be really hesitate to kind of say the right answer in that case. Instead of C, probably I will agree with them, A or B.
Hesitation for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe I could be wrong. So other 7 people say B as a correct answer, and am I right? Maybe did I maybe understand the question correctly? And probably I will go to the same answer. So those are conformity. As a human being, we have a tendency to try to see other people's reaction. So even though you know the right answer, it's really hesitating. But the interesting thing is, if one of those confederates say the right, correct answer among them, you can have more chance to be more honest and try to say the right answer. So maybe among 7 confederates, maybe half of them say C and half of them say B, and it's your turn, it's more higher chance you will say C as a correct answer. Yeah, and also the video clip kind of show us too, instead of saying in front of people, maybe there's like a paper, you can kind of write down your right answer. Maybe you have more higher chance to say the right words too, because nobody kind of know you have maybe wrong and right answer. Yeah. 2/3 very good, very good. Yeah. So remember, those are Solomon Ashe's conformity experiment. By the way, you did a great job for exam 3, so I'm so happy for that. So we have only 2 more exams left. Yeah, so 2 of them is online, and the exam 4 will cover the later chapter 10, 11, and 12. Yeah. By the way, this Thursday is due of your personality test. Have you already submitted your personality? Okay, yeah. So I kind of remind you.
Yeah, I seen it was due. I just kind of been putting it off.
Yeah. I mean, you even though you kind of passed it, you may kind of ask me again, but kind of remind you if you can submit after doing those personality tests. It may take 10 minutes and maybe 15 minutes because it's around 100 questions. So kind of post to yours and then respond to another classmates. That would be great. So that's the conformity. Let's kind of checking about why do we conform. Any guess? Why do we conform?
Well, everybody wants to fit in, really.
Yeah, belongingness, right? Yeah. So opposite of belongingness can be maybe loneliness, and maybe you have your own kind of a thing. But sometimes, we just want to be in a part of the people, maybe part of the group. That's why we go to school, maybe church, and attending some maybe book club, and your maybe your friends, best friends, yeah, who kind of support you, yeah. So have you ever experienced because of those group, decision, because you don't want to go, maybe go watch movie and anything else, but your best friends, yeah, they all want to watch movie, yeah, or tonight. So even though you want to go to maybe concert, instead of going to concert, you just kind of agree to go to see a movie, yeah. I
mean, if the majority of them want to do that, then let's make them all happy and let's all do that.
Very good, very good. So I want to share in Korea, when you have those gathering of friends, maybe 5 and 6 people together, interesting thing is when you go to some restaurant, if somebody orders some maybe beef noodle soup, everybody will everybody will order the same thing. Kind of same thing. It's interesting, I realized, because here, if you're kind of looking at menu, you just kind of choose whatever you want. More like you're kind of individually, you prepare those food. But in Korea, when you go some restaurant, people seem to order the very similar, kind of same thing. Maybe the person, your best friend, eats some noodle. Maybe today, I want to eat some noodle with you. Kind of try to be, we are the group of people, and maybe today maybe menu is beef noodle today. So I think it's kind of maybe thinking about part of the conformity, very strong tendency to kind of belong together in that group. So that was interesting. Yeah, maybe the last one will be, which type of culture might you expect to exhibit higher levels of conformity? I believe you are kind of growing up collectivistic culture may show more conformity than you are growing up individual culture. Yeah, that's my assumption. Okay, so let's talk about obedience and try to differentiate conformity versus obedience. What's the difference between conformity and obedience?
Conformity might be more or less you just feel like you don't have another choice. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So obedience means maybe you are obedient to your parents, and you're obedient to maybe your pastor, and you're obedient to general in that army, right? So there should be some authoritative figure who is like much higher than you, right? Conformity is more like it can be friends and random person, but you do not feel like they are much higher than you. So kind of maybe same level of people get there. And obedience is there should be some authoritative figure. You should do it right now. You need to keep pressing those buttons. Yeah, those are more like obedience. Yeah. So here, very famous Stanley Milgram's experiment. Those are notorious experiments as well. So we are going to watch video clip, but I want to explain. They recruit participants. If you participate our study, it was happening Yale University. We will pay $4 for 1 hour of your time. But $4 seems like very less now, but it was really big money back then. Yeah. So people participate those in a study, and they kind of in the direction-wise. There are two roles, teacher and learner role, yeah. And whoever you kind of pick up those sleep, teacher and learner. But there's like a confederate. So confederate is kind of acting as a learner. So everybody, whatever you choose, you are the teacher. So you will be the teacher, that experiment. And the other person, the confederate, will kind of acting the learner's role. And they said, we really want to know about your memory and learning. So whenever you got the wrong answer about those words, we will shock you. Starting from 15 electric voltage. Yeah. So imagine you're the learner over there, and then I'm the teacher. Yeah, but all the participants, they are in teacher's role. Yeah, and you keep generating those shock generator, starting from 15 voltage, and if you do not get the right answer, next one, 30, and 45, and 60, and 75, up to 450 voltage, generating those shock. So the situation is like this, and we are going to watch the video clip, and I want to hear from your opinion. Okay?
A decade earlier, psychologist Stanley Milgram had also looked at how we respond to authority. In order to understand how people were induced to obey unjust regimes and participate in atrocities such as the Holocaust, he set up an experiment. Volunteers were told they were taking part in scientific research to improve memory.
Will you open those and tell me which of you is which, please? Teacher. Where? Teacher.
Separated by a screen, the teacher would ask the learner questions in a word game and administer an electric shock when the answer was incorrect. He was told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer.
Cloud. Horse. Rock. House. Answer. Wrong. 150 volts. Answer. Horse.
Oh. Experiment. That's all. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, please.
Continue, please. Go right on.
I refuse to go on. Let me out.
Refuses to go on. The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue.
Participants didn't know that the learner was really an actor and the so-called shocks harmless.
You're gonna get a shock. 180 volts.
Oh. I can't stand the pain. Let me out of here.
Can't stand it. I'm not gonna kill that man, eh? I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman? I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please. All right, next one, slow. Walk, dance, truck, music.
2/3 of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so by what they perceived as a legitimate authority figure. In this case, a man in a white coat.
375 volts. I think something's happened to that fellow in there. I don't get no answer. He was hollering a less voltage. Can't you check in and see if he's all right, please?
Milgram's findings horrified America. They showed that decent American citizens were as capable of committing acts against their conscience as the Germans had been under the Nazis.
Okay. So.
I can believe that already with how people treat people.
So if you were in that situation, this is like a generating shock, starting from a slight shock, 15 voltage, you kind of keep pressing, yeah, whenever you miss those, question, and here 450. So if you are maybe that participant as a learner, the teacher position, would you maybe keep pressing or where would you stop?
I would not know until I'm actually in that situation.
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
say probably not, but I wouldn't know until I actually am in that situation.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. That's a really good answer. So whenever you try to generate those electric shock and hesitant, right next to you, there's a person who is wearing white, coat and looks like a really authoritative figure, and his voice is really authoritative too. You need to be continuously generating the shock. It's okay, I'm going to be more responsible for those, don't worry about it. And kind of keep saying, so whenever you are kind of hesitating to increasing those voltage, authoritative figures keep talking to you. So we realize as a human being, we have a tendency to kind of agree and obey, to the authoritative figure without not much kind of consequences later. But I guess depending on the participant, they generate, maybe some of them, they just kind of stop generating after 50 voltage. But some of them kind of all the way listening to those authoritative figure kind of keep pressing you to ask you kind of pressing the voltage and up to 450. But guess what? 2/3, over 60% of people who participate in that experiment generate up to 450. So I guess that's kind of scary too, right? So how much, we as a human being be obedient to the authoritative figure. But I did too. My parents are more like authoritarian parenting style, and I kind of educated to you need to respect elderly people no matter what, even though they are wrong. Wrong means sometimes their knowledge is not that correct, but still I need to respect. I kind of raised in that kind of more cultural background. So authoritative figure is there. And maybe very old, maybe senior citizen, maybe try to guide the whole experiment, and I'm here, I'm Sarah, and it's like a teacher's role. I know I need to respect those elderly people, but at the same time, it's not the right things to do, and it can be really confusing and hard, but it's really interesting experiment. But since we are talking about social psychology, you may put into that situation. How would you do that? Maybe would you keep pressing those voltage up to 450, or maybe I will kind of resist. I'm not going to do it. Maybe I don't want to harm other people. But at the same time, I know you don't want to harm other people, but since authoritative figures keep pressing you, at that moment, we may kind of keep obey. Yeah. So Nazi soldiers, kind of said a little bit, maybe themselves was not much like a high intention, but they're hired by those government. And you're a soldier, you need to obey those commands. So whatever the highest people kind of command you, you need to follow the order. So anything, since you served for the army for 60 years, you feel like you don't need to share the whole thing, but is there any moment you need to be really obedient? You feel like that's not maybe right things to do, or kind of a little maybe hesitant to do those, and anything maybe happen?
They tell you that you are required to follow any lawful order, but you're not required to follow any unlawful order.
Okay.
So I typically wouldn't know but like also it also depends on where you're at in the Army. If
Sure.
you're more special operations and more Navy SEALs and stuff like that, you're not going to really have that option of determining what's right and wrong. You just have to do it because I mean, you know, all this top secret information, and they're
Sure.
not going to let you out of their sight with that. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's really depending on the situation, right? Yeah. So even though you're kind of in the same army, there's some responsibility and, you know, law and all kind of things. It can be really complicated, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing. So let's keep talking. You feel like it's kind of interesting topic? Yeah, social. Yeah, social psychology. Yeah, let's talk about de-individuation. You may have a chance to be part of maybe big concert, and nobody will recognize you. So usually you do not, raise your hands and you maybe sing in front of people, but nobody will recognize you because it's very loud, and you maybe went to a very famous singer's concert area, and you can feel like freedom, more freedom. So usually you do not sing and maybe dance, but on that moment, at that time, maybe you can do that, because nobody will recognize you. Those are more like de-individuation, can be part of the military and gangs and maybe hate groups. I mean, those are really negative kind of, those in a situation, but, you are in concert. Maybe you are in big lecture, maybe auditorium. Nobody will recognize you individually, so you may behave differently, possibly, right? Yeah. So, that means de-individuation means you lose your identity and accountability experienced by individuals in groups. So you may behave differently when you wear mask. Yeah, let's just say this is like a party for maybe mask, so nobody will recognize you. Maybe you are wearing some cat mask and dog mask, and nobody will recognize you, and maybe you may act differently. Maybe you are a very shy person, but maybe on that party, you can be more bold and maybe just kind of pretend, become very bold people, possibly. Yeah. So any maybe experience you feel like a de-individuation, maybe you are not going to do that, maybe by yourself and everybody kind of aware of you, but probably in the group of people, I did maybe same thing, maybe I can do more kind of bold maybe behavior. Any experience would you like to share?
No experience really, but I could say there's some examples of
Yes.
individuation.
Yeah.
Say you join a frat house or a fraternity.
Yeah.
Or even being a police officer. At times you're going to have to set aside who you are as a person normally.
Sure.
And just act on something that needs to be done.
You be more like maybe as a police officer, maybe you need to be more kind of, how can I say, more consistent and try to be, this is the maybe law and you should do maybe behave in that way. More confidently kind of guide those people as a role, the position-wise, right?
Say like you're a cop and normally you don't have to do anything violent towards kids, younger kids. But some young teenager who again that just shot somebody or something's trying to get away, you got to do something about it. You're not normally used to doing stuff to kids, but you kind of have to. So it's loss of identity.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. So that's the part of our social kind of influence and maybe each other. So if you're looking at this picture, what's happening here? Can you describe it to me?
The other baby wants the drink, and the other baby's holding on to it and crying because it's trying to take the drink.
Yeah, it's mine. They kind of fighting each other. So aggression can be part of our, maybe our tendency kind of showing to other people. If you're thinking about evolutionary perspective, there's only one banana. Yeah, only one banana there. But you as a person, you need to feed your children, and maybe you need to feed your wife, right? So you need to get those. So there's like another person who get those banana. You need to be really aggressive. Maybe you need to fight, maybe fight over to get those banana because there's only one. It's more like a survivor, right? If you do not get the banana, you are starving and your whole family is starving. So you should get it. Yes, yes. So the aggression can be part of kind of inherited in our maybe body. Try to be more aggressive at certain situations. So we are altruistic, but at the same time we can be very aggressive. Usually there's some like a gender differences, like previously. Maybe male, like boys, they become more aggressive comparing to like a female and girls. But I want to say maybe boys, they're kind of fighting, more physically aggressive, but girls can be relationally very aggressive, which means isolating one friend and spreading some rumors. So it can be more hard, honestly.
I've seen some girl fights.
Okay.
I'd rather fight a man.
Okay.
I don't like those gouging at your eyes with their claws,
yeah, kind of
your hair and slamming their head into the concrete.
Okay, okay.
Women can be aggressive too.
Oh.
But I do agree, yes, men are more aggressive than women.
Like more physically, yeah.
Yeah.
But woman can be physically aggressive as well, but more like a relation-wise, kind of spreading wrong rumors and like isolating one person, kind of more like a backstabbing.
Yeah.
So I do not like it.
Testosterone in the men.
Yeah, so more drama can happen like among girls relationship. But I guess the men, they kind of fight today, but next day they just become friends again. Is it true too?
Yeah, I've become friends with almost fighting,
Okay.
Like hated the dude, wanted to fight him, and then we met, fucking made up after the fight.
I like that kind of relationship better than backstabbing, like a girl's dramatic relationship.
I don't do that no more anyway. I feel like everybody should learn once they graduate high school that you're an adult now and you shouldn't have to be able to do any of that.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so that's the thing. Let's thinking about a little bit about aggression here. Cyberbullying. Cyberbullying can be really part of the aggression, showing aggression, because it's really commonly happen right now. So have you ever experienced cyberbullying? Or maybe you kind of see the other people kind of suffer because of the cyberbullying.
I've seen news articles and stuff of it, but I don't know, it was probably mainly because I wasn't even allowed to have a phone until I was like 17. But like I didn't see a whole lot of the cyberbullying coming along. It was also when the internet was getting built, social media wise platforms. So I'm sure there was cyberbullying going along for sure, but I've never seen it.
Okay, that's good thing for you, right? Yeah. So maybe they kind of post the wrong information, so everybody maybe receives some wrong, maybe maybe bad impression toward maybe one person, and intentionally they kind of put the maybe very ugly photos and not the right information, and it can be really hard and respond toward maybe you posting certain things and maybe responding wise very hurtful words and spreading rumors, and it can be really hard for young children. Young children means junior high, especially those adolescent, which is junior high and high school students. And it's really hard because it can be ending up suicide ideation too, because they kind of feeling depressed because everybody seems like it looks really great, their life looks really great, but look at me, I'm suffering, maybe I'm working and maybe I'm going to school, so it can be too much and people do not like me, maybe I cannot be the part of the group, and there are so many reasons to feel like left out and feeling depressed and maybe connecting to maybe some suicide ideation. So it can be really hard starting from the cyberbullying, but there are very negative consequences. So it can be really high level of aggression. Okay, there are also very interesting experiments too. If you live So by the way, the weather gets really cold right now. Daniel, do you like cold weather or maybe hot weather?
I prefer to be hot than cold.
Okay, yeah, me too, yeah. But kind of looking at here, this is like interesting, temperature and violence. Since the effect of global warming, yeah, people say the earth is getting warmer and warmer, right? Yeah, so if you're kind of looking at here, maybe I will ask you, where the mothers and all the violence will happen. Cold region versus hot region. where would be more those mothers and aggression and maybe those violent will happen. Hot.
Just because I know because wasps get really pissed off when it's hot. Wasps, when they're hot, they will sting you for no damn reason. You look at them wrong, they're like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, heat definitely causes more aggression.
Heat, yes. Because it's kind of irritating. Maybe if you're cold, you just kind of stay at home or don't go outside and no interaction with other people. But kind of hot weather, just like talking to somebody else can be irritating you, right? Yeah. So do you kind of agree with that? Hot weather gets more maybe violence and maybe mothers, yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so another experiment is, of course, the alcohol. Daniel, I know you do not, drink alcohol that much, just kind of moderate way. You just celebrate and, good amount. But if you are imbibing alcohol, there are more higher chance to imbibing those violent behavior and aggressive. And, if you kind of drink more than your, limit, there are more negative possibilities. Kind of having those fighting can happen and all things. And here, just holding a gun increase aggression. I do not know if I can 100% agree with that experiment, but this is really an interesting experiment here. Just holding a gun may increase aggression. So what was the experiment was participant, let them held, who held those, 15 minutes of toy, children's toy and game versus gun. And after they hold those children's game and toy versus or maybe the gun, they kind of offer hot sauce toward some drink. Maybe an anonymous person that next to you, they will drink this drink. So whatever you want to put the hot sauce on that drink. So when you hold the children's toy, maybe game, and versus hold a gun, guess what? If you hold a gun, you put more hot sauce for the drink for the anonymous person. I think, do you kind of maybe it will kind of make sense? Holding, even like just touching, touching and holding, gun versus children's maybe game and toy, it may give some difference. Putting more aggressive behavior, putting more hot sauce kind of ruin that drink.
I would say, just because of, the experiment between that kid and the mannequin or whatever that he was beating up because he saw somebody else doing it. It kind of links with that. I mean, I feel like to a point, I'm sure it's not the same with everyone. Hell, it might even be just a boy. A boy might, hold a gun and be a little bit more aggressive. But I don't know.
So possibly you feel like there's a chance to.
There's a small chance, especially with some people, because some people are just wired differently. Some people are already more aggressive. So
already they're aggressive and holding gun kind of trigger them to become more aggressive and putting hot sauce. I do not know the person, just kind of put maybe hold this hot sauce. Social media. I know. Do you like playing video game, Daniel? Okay, so when you play the video game, is it pretty much a violent video game or maybe not necessarily? It's pretty.
I play some soccer too, but mostly it's to do with the battlefield.
Okay. It's more fun to you too, right?
I'm finding video games less and less fun as I get older, but
So there are kind of experiment that playing violent video game seems more like it become aggressive, maybe for young children, comparing just watching TV or maybe observing the scene. The main reason is when you, just a second. So can you maybe come the front door over here? Okay, I told you today I invited one of our faculty members, so she's here. So I have a guest speaker, so she will kind of talk about social psychology for 15 minutes, So here, We welcome you, Dr. Schaub.
Thank you.
So,
What's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel? It's
Yes,
nice to
ma'am.
meet you, Daniel. I'm Dr. Sharp.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Sharp.
So you and Dr. Moon have this one-on-one
yeah.
going on. That's really
I did not
nice.
expect that for my first college semester, but
No, I don't suppose you did, but it's really a good opportunity for you both, really.
So I want to introduce Dr. Schaub, who is my colleague, and her expertise is social psychology. So she's taking social psychology and also educational psychology and abnormal psychology, and she loves psychology field.
Yeah.
So today is the day, since she really, know very knowledgeable about those social psychology, she wanna share about, her like a thought and influence to us. So you feel like it's good time?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Social psychology is this beautiful marriage of sociology and psychology. So you're in psychology and you're learning about how it is a focus on the individual and all different aspects of the individual. Sociology is focused on the group, and then social psychology marries those two together, looking at how the individual behaves in the group and the influence of the group on the individual. So there's so many different kinds of research and studies that have been done in this field, some that are landmark, some that are still considered very relevant, others that are very controversial. You've probably heard of some of them maybe not. But before we get into some of those, I want to mention that it is an area that has much research going on. And so research tends to be a big focus on, trying to understand these interactions. And I've oftentimes had my students do a research project, and they have done some of the greatest things, some of the most interesting things related to social psych. I mean, imagine if we had come in and I had sat right next to you, Daniel, in that chair right there, very close to you. Not this one, but that one that is this far from you. Mm-hmm. And out of this whole empty room, I wonder what you would have thought. I wonder if that would have felt a little off to you. Because we have our personal space, and personal space is a big factor in the way people interact with each other. Varies by culture, it varies by nation. Some people are real into being close to one another, and that wouldn't bother them at all. But Americans, we like to have our personal space. We have our bubble. And imagine, I've had students do experiments. Elevator experiments are awesome. Elevators have some of the most prescribed behaviors. I mean, there's only certain things you can do in an elevator without being seen as weird, scary, something really off. So they would maybe go into an elevator, and let's say that Dr. Moon is in the elevator and she's the only person in it, and I walk in as the second person and I stand right here. Not actually touching, but just almost, just right here. The doors close and here we are. What does she do? Does she just sit there? Does she give it the old, try to not be too obvious, stretch and move? Does she say something? Does she say, excuse me, I think you're a little close? But that's the kind of thing, in this group interaction, how would a person behave? They did experiments where they would walk into an elevator, let the doors close behind them, then turn around and look at the people. You don't do that. That's not normal. That's the kind of thing that would really throw people off and make them wonder what was going on. So they've done those kinds of experiments. I had students that went to the mall and they were looking at helping behaviors and honesty. They were looking at kind of those two together. And one student would walk along, reach into their pocket, and as they pulled something out, intentionally drop like a $5 bill. Then they had someone there working with them who's observing. They walk on. having dropped the $5 bill, and the other person observes to see what do the people around them do, what's the interaction. Do they reach for it and say, hey, you dropped this? Do they grab it and stick it in their pocket? You know, those kinds of things, both helping and honesty that you could measure in that kind of an experiment. So there have been many experiments that have really captured the attention of America and psychology in general. You might have heard of the idea that there was a psychology experiment that shocked people. Not true. Didn't happen, but that's the story that got out, and that's the way people have looked at this research for 60 years. 60 years ago, Stanley Milgram made a very elaborate device that made it look like people were shocking one another. And it was just so powerful, this experiment, and it was so shocking, bad pun. It was so startling, people's responses, that it became quite well known, and it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of morphed into this misunderstanding that people actually shocked one another. They did not, but they thought they were. Mm-hmm. And they went quite far in what they thought was shocking someone. And they were like pushing these buttons, and people were crying out in pain. They weren't really being shocked, they were pretending. And they were Confederates who were pretending. And then people later criticized this quite heavily and said, what about the ethics? Can you do this to people? How did these people feel afterwards? And that kind of thing. There's the famous Stanford prison experiment. Have you heard of it?
We talked about both of these experiments today.
Talked about them today. Have you seen the movies? There's a couple of movies out about Stanford.
I have not about that, but the documentary piece that she showed me a little while ago, that looked pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And there's one that was made on it I haven't watched, I've heard it's pretty good. But anyway, yeah, so that one has also become part of psychology lore. Everybody knows about Stanford and what happened with those college students who took on these roles and became so completely out of control and immersed in the roles and behaved in ways that they never believed they would. I wonder, have you ever found yourself in a role where you were just so engrossed that you later thought, oh, why did I do that? Can you think of an example?
Not right off.
I wonder, did you play any sports? I
did.
wonder, as an athlete, did your coach ever have the team do something and you later thought, that was over the line. I shouldn't have done that.
Probably so.
Maybe.
I just can't think of it right now.
Maybe. But we get immersed in our roles, and it's pretty powerful. An example that I give my students, and it's just one of those things that happened when my kids were young, and I'll never really know how it would have panned out if I'd been there. But I wasn't there at a baseball practice where my 7-year-old son's coach decided that the kids were becoming afraid of the ball. And if you've ever played baseball, this is the worst thing, to be afraid of the ball that's being thrown, because these were 7-year-olds pitching, winging the ball at each other, hitting each other on many occasions. So they developed what the coach called the fear of the ball. So it was an indoor practice in a gymnasium. He lined them up against the wall of the gym, started chunking baseballs at them. Not wiffle balls, not tennis balls, hard baseballs. Started chunking these baseballs at them, right at their head. And I wasn't there. I drive up in my minivan, of course, to pick him up from practice. And all these parents converge on me. You won't believe what happened. This is what he did. He threw baseballs at our kid's head. It was terrible. I said, what did you do? Nothing. Nothing. Because they let the coach's role overpower their role as parent. And there was also obedience going on there. They were obedient as parents to some authority that they were willing to give the coach. But isn't that amazing that I don't know, there were probably at least 5 or 6 parents there who just watched while an adult threw baseballs at their 7-year-old's head, and nobody did anything. I've always thought that was a good example of obedience and the importance of roles, and how we sometimes let ourselves do things in roles that we later realize, wow, why did I do that? That is just not reasonable. That shouldn't have happened that way.
I'm just wondering, any maybe hurts and injuries?
Nope, nobody was hurt.
So then Mr.
Nobody was hurt. He didn't hit anybody.
Okay.
I mean, what he was doing, he did well, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I thought an extreme example of role playing, and the parents were obedient to the coach's authority. So let's see, what else about social psychology should we talk about?
Maybe I was just kind of right now thinking maybe first impression.
First impression. Oh,
maybe,
first impressions. We were talking about attraction as a social psychological concept just this week or just last week, and it was a topic that the students really were interested in. There's all kinds of theories of attraction. There's the birds of a feather flock together, so people who with similarities are going to be more attracted to one another. There's the opposites attract, so people who are different will be more attracted to one another. But out of the main factors in attraction, which are similarity, physical attractiveness, and proximity, the most important they find, and they found this over and over, is proximity. It's more important that you have this regular contact with this person than their looks or your similarities. They call it the mere exposure effect. Just being around people makes us become more attracted to them, more, not always attracted in a romantic way, but we start to like somebody that we initially kind of thought, we were not impressed with at first, but maybe you've worked with someone and at first your impression was not great, but over time you thought, this person is cool, I like them, I was wrong. The mere exposure to that person has made you find them much more appealing. So attraction is most influenced by proximity, which usually catches people off guard. We also did a self-esteem scale to have people look at a whole list of different body characteristics and how do they rate themselves and how do they evaluate themselves in terms of their self-esteem, their physical attractiveness, and their condition. Do they feel like they're in good condition, kind of thing? And people were very surprised in some cases, not surprised in other cases, but very interested. And of course, these days, when we have this huge situation with our influencers who are promoting particular body styles and body types and certain kinds of appearance, it's a very relevant idea. What is your body self-esteem? In particular, I've studied young girls and their attitudes toward social media and influencers and their body self-esteem, and it's kind of a difficult situation. I don't know if you have any younger siblings, perhaps, or young cousins that you might have heard talk about what they like to do online.
But overall, I think the internet definitely influences how people view themselves a lot more than anybody thinks, men and women.
Yes.
I look at workout videos and any type of stuff, and I definitely judge myself based off of videos and other people. So yeah, I agree.
So you see it happening. Yes, it is a very powerful social effect. Social media. Yeah, it's having some very strong effects on our young people. Like I said, I've been most interested in the effect on girls, but like you say, young men are looking at the sports videos, the workout videos, the bodybuilding videos, and being impacted by it. Yes. Let's let's see, what else do we need to talk about?
So actually, I kind of covered half of the information of this chapter. So we will talk more about users kind of mirror influence and attraction this Thursday. But maybe since Dr. Schaub and I went to conference on last Friday, and she did a really great job about those teenagers, influencing the social media influence. I guess that's really big portion of the social psychology and influencing each other. Maybe can be cyberbullying, all connected. So if you don't mind, can you introduce your study a little bit?
Well, I did research on the way girls between the ages of 13 and 18 are using social media, and was looking at what kind of research is out there and what people have been finding. And what they've been finding is that cyberbullying is on the rise. And gosh, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it was something like 79%, and I believe it was on TikTok, consider themselves bullied on TikTok. 69% considered themselves bullied on Instagram. Even on Facebook, which not very many teens are on Facebook anymore, but even half of the ones on Facebook felt bullied. So the cyberbullying is increasing, sadly. They're making efforts against it, to reduce it. Schools are doing what they can. Schools recognize that it spills over. Cyberbullying is happening at home, the privacy of their home with their phone or their laptop, but it's spilling over into schools, certainly, and becoming other kinds of bullying. So schools are doing what they can, but it's a very difficult situation. So other changes, there's a stronger and stronger link that's being recognized all the time between social media and depression in young girls, unfortunately. They are experiencing more depression when they are spending more hours on social media. And speaking of hours on social media, in 2023, and this was from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatrists, so it's a good organization, they were saying that American teens were spending 9 hours per day on social media, not homework, social media. Or games.
I could see it. I was thinking, because I'm 25, I was thinking of how hard it is for me to do anything really in life without having social media in my life. Like, I wanted to get rid of social media, but like all of my ex-military soldiers and stuff like that, that's the only way I can get a hold of them. Or I would like to find somebody to date, and all I can do is use social media apps for that, because there is no longer, you can't hardly go out and ask somebody out anymore. It's
just changed for sure.
It's definitely different,
Yes. So, and then the third factor that's changed so much is the influencers. I mean, it's hard to overstate the power of the influencers. And they are having a huge impact on our young people. And it's, like I said, I've studied girls. The impact on girls is very great. But I'm interested to hear you say that you find that even as a young male, you feel the impact of influencers on yourself. And you can imagine what a teenage boy feels. When you were a teenager, influencers weren't really a thing, were they?
No, not nearly as prominent. You might have had some, but definitely not. This is 100 times different.
Yeah, it was Hollywood actors and actresses, and there were celebrities that would be considered what we'd call influencers, but not people who were just making a name and becoming famous for being skinny.
Or pretty,
or beautiful.
Literally exactly
or fit, or,
It's wild, but, I mean, I feel like the world is just going to continue getting worse and worse, because I think Satan has an influence on it. But
we have a difficult situation right now. It causes some problems in life for sure. But anyway, well, I hope you enjoy this chapter. So you guys are on social psychology in your intro class right now. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope maybe it'll pique your interest and you want to take another psychology class.
Oh, I have to anyway.
Oh, are you a psychology major?
Well, I'm doing Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So
Okay.
I think I have 2 psychology classes.
I think you need to take social psych. Yeah, I've had a lot of nursing students that take social psych.
Yes, ma'am.
Developmental psychology.
And developmental is a really good one for
Yeah.
nursing students.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's nice to meet you, Daniel.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much, Dr. Shaw. We appreciate you. Yay. Thank you.